Friends, good afternoon and welcome to this special briefing on Prime Minister's visit to Bishkek to attend the SCO Council of Heads of States meeting. The Bishkek Council of Heads of States meeting will be followed by a bilateral visit by the Prime Minister to Kyrgyzstan. I have on the dais Secretary West, Shri Gitesh Sharma. I also have Joint Secretary ERS, Manish Prabhat. After the initial briefing by Secretary West, I will open the floor to question and answer. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ravish. A very good afternoon to each one of you. We are meeting on the eve of Prime Minister's visit to Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan for the forthcoming SCO Summit, and as Ravish said, also the India-Kyrgyzstan bilateral segment of the visit. This will be the second SCO Summit after its expansion in 2017 when India, along with Pakistan, had joined as members. This is also the first multilateral summit that PM will be attending after the elections. The summit will actually be held on 14th of June 2019. Leaders are expected to arrive on 13 June 2019. Friends, this organization, SCO, represents approximately 42% of the world's population, 22% of its land area, and 20% of its GDP. For us, it is a structured platform to engage with Central Asian countries. Some of the important issues that are taken up within the framework of SCO include counterterrorism, Afghanistan, separatism, extremism, and there are several streams within which cooperation is developed and furthered. Within MEA, I should add that we have a specialized SCO division to manage our engagement with this organization. This would indicate to you the extent of our commitment and the extent of our engagement with this organization. India has actively participated in various SCO mechanisms under Kyrgyz chair over the last 1 year. The organization, for reference purposes, I mentioned, works on the basis of consensus. Typically, the summit settings are meant to discuss the global security situation, multilateral economic cooperation, people-to-people exchanges, and other topical issues. I won't go into the members, the list of members, but 8 countries, including India, are members of SCO. You are also familiar with the concept of observers. There are 4 observers, dialogue partners, and there are others also who attend the SCO meetings, the SCO Secretary General, the Executive Director of the Tashkent-based RATS, Regional Anti-Terrorist Structure. In terms of the typical summit format, is I can brief you, give an overview. There's a moment where there's a group photograph. Council of Heads of State meet in a restricted format, delegation level meeting with the participation of observer states, signing of agreed documents, again a group photograph where the observer countries are also there, and an official lunch. So it's a very compact program on the 14th. In this format, we will be discussing the various issues of concern. Prime Minister, when he participates, when he makes his interventions, he will reflect the Indian concerns and priorities with respect to the SCO process. I mentioned to you about contact group on Afghanistan. There have been several activities, so let me just mention a few of them. The last meeting of the contact group took place in Bishkek from 18 to 19 April. The RATS, that is a very, very important body through which exchange of information takes place, cooperation on anti-terrorist activities. From our side, NSCS is the nodal agency. Defense is also an important part of the SCO process. Only recently, Raksha Mantri attended the meeting of SCO defense ministers in Bishkek on 29th, 30 April 2019. There are some defense-related activities also to take place in September 2019 and later on in the year as well. I should add at this stage that while we have given you an overview of the format of the SCO meetings, there is indeed scope for bilateral meetings, and we're happy to confirm bilateral meetings with Russia and China as taking place on the margins of the SCO Summit. There will be, and there are other requests also. These tend to be processed, taking into account the limited time available. I will also go on to mention that this is a very special visit because there is a bilateral component also. On 14th of June in the late afternoon will be the India-Kyrgyzstan bilateral segment. Overall, we have a very, very active bilateral engagement with the Kyrgyz Republic. It may be recalled that in India, Central Asia dialogue had been held in January 2019 in Samarkand, and several initiatives were planned within this framework. Kyrgyzstan is also a member of this dialogue. One thing we could say here that there is strong consensus within Central Asia on stronger engagement with India. So we do engage with the Central Asian states collectively and also on a bilateral basis. As far as Kyrgyzstan is concerned in terms of bilateral relations, it may be recalled that Kyrgyz president had recently attended Prime Minister's swearing-in ceremony on 30 May 2019. Of course, this was in his capacity as SCO chairperson, but this was the case of the only Central Asian country to be present at the swearing-in ceremony. But it is not a one-off kind of event. It's really a very, very active relationship. If you see in the recent period, the India-Kyrgyz Joint Commission had met in November 2018, chaired by our Commerce Minister and Kyrgyz Health Minister. Kyrgyz Foreign Minister visited India in January 2019. There was a visit at External Affairs Minister level to the SCO meeting on 21-22 May 2019, where again there was, on the eve of the counting, in fact, election counting, where again there was scope for bilateral engagement. The Foreign Office consultations, the 10th round of Foreign Office consultation, I chaired it actually on the Indian side, held in Bishkek in April 2019. If you go back a little further, Prime Minister Modi had made a landmark visit to Central Asia in 2015, where he also visited the Kyrgyz Republic, and Kyrgyz President, the former President Almazbek Atambayev had visited India in December 2016. So if we take this snapshot into account, it's been a very, very active relationship with Kyrgyz Republic. It is a country of about 6 million people. There are certain challenges in developing economic relations with Central Asian countries, primarily on account of them being landlocked, but we attach the highest importance to all aspects of our relationship, including the commercial and economic aspects, and we look at ways in which we can address problems of connectivity in particular. Bilateral trade with Kyrgyzstan was about 60 million US dollars in 2017-2018. So that's the scale of the economic engagement. We have almost 8,000 Indian students in Kyrgyz Republic. So that's something which often doesn't attract enough attention, but there is a kind of educational angle also to our bilateral relationship with Kyrgyz Republic. About 100 Indian nationals. the bilateral meeting again, since I gave you a snapshot of the format, the SCO Summit will follow. Again, the bilateral summit will follow the similar kind of formats that's usual for bilateral. The restricted format, delegation level, and documents, and perhaps a banquet. I should just draw your attention to possibility of a business summit involving FICCI and its counterpart, Kyrgyz organization, on the same day, on 14th. And on the 13th, we are working on an India-Kyrgyz textiles exhibition on the theme Colors and Weaves of India and Central Asia. This is an exhibition which brings together textile traditions of our two countries, and you know that there are several similarities which get highlighted in such joint displays between India and the Central Asian countries. So Kyrgyz Republic and India will put their exhibits together at this exhibition. Almost 100 Indian exhibits will be on display, and this is being organized by Ministry of Textiles and Export Promotion Council for Handicraft. So this really is where we are in terms of the preparations and the forthcoming visit of Prime Minister to Bishkek.
Thank you, sir. I now open the floor to questions. Ji, Venkat ji.
Is there a possibility of a summit of RIC, Russia, India and China, while the PM is there? And you said you have also requested several requests for bilateral meetings with the Indian Prime Minister. Is there one from Pakistan? Thank you.
Pakistan has already been answered earlier, but other question Secretary will answer. Parikshit. Sir, do le lete hain. Just Parikshit.
So will trade issues arising out of US sanctions be discussed during those bilateral meetings with President Xi and President Putin? You also said that there will be some defense-related developments later in the year with regard to SCO. What would that be? And if you can just talk about the discussion on trade, connectivity, and investments at the SCO Summit.
Well, I've already mentioned that the meetings which are set up on the sidelines of the SCO Summit, and we have a bilateral engagement with Russia, and we have a bilateral engagement with China. I also mentioned that there was a limit as far as the available time is there. So the other requests for bilateral and meetings that will be processed as we go along if there is opportunity. So I would leave it at that. As far as you mentioned about trade and defense, the SCO meetings, the interventions are very free and frank, and every country does highlight issues of greater importance to it. So one can expect that the participating leaders will highlight all the concerns that are uppermost in their minds. So I'm sure as I mentioned, that multilateral economic engagement and the current global scenario, these are things which should also be, kind of uppermost in their minds. So we will leave it at that, because this is up to the leaders of the various countries to highlight specific aspects and bring out specific angles. But it is a very friendly and friendly gathering. There are no, kind of serious. Most of the outcome documents and all negotiated previously on the sidelines and usually in advance, so they reflect consensus.
Parikshit, in fact, if I may suggest that let us not get into this speculative question as to what will be discussed. Once the meetings take place, I assure you that there will be briefings, releases, where we will inform you about the outcome of those meetings. So let us not get into that now. Pranay?
Sir, is there any request from the Iranian side for a bilateral meeting?
I would say that we have more than one request, and we have, and it all depends on the possibility of finding time. It's a very kind of very intensive program of Prime Minister in that place. So I again would repeat the same thing, that what we have confirmed, that we can let you know.
Yes.
You said that, given the framework, you will still try to push for issues that are India's priorities in SCO. Could you explain that? And you also said that there are 2 bilaterals which are already decided. Typically, how long are such pull-out bilaterals, and what is going to be discussed in them? Is it like just organic, or are they also decided in advance? Just an idea of what happens at these pull-outs.
You see, when we have confirmed 2 bilateral meetings, then we have not said that these are pull-aside meetings. These are proper bilateral meetings. The agenda and the topic, as I mentioned, of discussion is not something which we will share now. Of course, the bilateral relations will be discussed, but normally after the meeting is over, then we will make sure that the outcome of such meetings are communicated to you as early as possible. Yeah, Suhasini. Just hold on. The main points for the SCO, how India, sir, SCO mein how we are planning to put across our points of view.
I think there I would like to draw your attention that to the way we approach SCO, that it provides us a framework where we can engage with the Central Asian countries in particular, and we have robust relations with each one of them. But this provides us a framework within which we can engage with the Central Asian countries in particular as in a more efficient manner. The SCO itself evolved on the basis of the Central Asian kind of processes which were taking place at the time. So we will definitely use the occasion to reinforce our relationship with the Central Asian countries. Of course, you have in mind the other countries. We have already mentioned to you that we have excellent relations with both Russia and China, very extensive relations, so that will be covered also in the bilateral aspects. But the SCO meeting itself will tend to focus on issues which particularly are specific to the organization, where Central Asia is at the heart of this organization.
Should I go ahead?
Suhasini, yeah.
Wanted to ask if the Prime Minister or the government has requested Pakistan for overflight rights for Prime Minister Modi to fly over Pakistan on his way to Bishkek, as well as what is the thinking inside the government, given that ordinary Indians are not getting this kind of rare exception being made for them. Is the government going to raise this issue that hundreds of thousands of Indians are being dislocated, patients not being able to fly or having to fly extra hours? But the first part being, has the government asked for permission? Has it been granted by Pakistan?
I think it's difficult for me to get into aspects related to Prime Minister's flights, the routes, the technical aspects. These are dealt differently. There are other dimensions, security and other kinds of dimensions. They are processed very differently. So this is perhaps not the right place to discuss, and we would not be the right people to be answering this question.
No, Suhasini, again, we are raising in the sense within the SCO format. Again, I think if it is raised, you will get to know. I mean, at this point of time, we really can't say the issues which will be raised at the SCO. He has replied.
Smita Sharma, just wanted a sense of what's really been a significant takeaway, because the RATS, Regional Anti-Terror, in fact, cooperation was being considered as a key pillar. Since the time that India has joined as a full member, has there been a significant takeaway so far from RATS for India? And given the fact that India-Pakistan relations in a way overshadowed the entire SAARC forum, which seems to be derailed, how are you ensuring that this bilateral dynamic doesn't play when you're in the SCO room together on all events?
Thank you for that question. I think there is an understanding within SCO to focus on issues where there is greater scope for cooperation, and contentious issues are usually not pushed in a big way. So we have not in our work with SCO, we have not really seen great scope for such initiatives where contentious issues are pushed forward. So I think that would be reassuring. As far as RATS is concerned, yes, there is very, very useful exchange of information and other kinds of cooperation involving RATS, which is based in Tashkent. One of the key objectives of the SCO process is also to fight separatism, extremism, and terrorism. So RATS is at the heart of this kind of effort, and we are very happy to be associated with RATS.
Yeah, Ranjit ji.
Is India hosting any defense-related activities this year that is being planned under SCO defense cooperation?
I don't recall offhand, but then I think way we work, that at some stage all the SCO countries would as we work within the SCO process, every country does offer something for the other countries, but at this stage we do not have anything to let you know.
What are the activities being planned this year? Defense-related activities?
I did not say this year.
Geeta.
You said every country raises its concerns and concerns that are important to it. The Chinese Vice Foreign Minister held a briefing a while ago where he said that SCO is not a forum to target any one country. Now, but the issues of terrorism largely would be discussed. Will India be raising the issue of terrorism emanating from Pakistan then?
I think if you look at the record of the previous SCO interactions and the summits, terrorism does figure in the deliberations of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And when I mentioned about the contact group on Afghanistan also, the countries of the region are challenged by the situation there and have a deep interest in the stability of Afghanistan as well. So these issues are likely to be discussed. I cannot say about specific countries. As I mentioned, that SCO has a well-oiled mechanism, and by and large, if you see the outcome documents, they reflect consensus opinion, but they also reflect the concerns of the countries. All of them have, the Central Asian countries, Russia, all the countries, they do talk about serious challenge from terrorism.
Sridhar.
So you spoke about certain defense-related developments that will take place later this year. Will this include a multilateral defense exercise, which will then obviously include both Indian and Pakistani troops?
In India? There are the defense exercises. I believe there is one in Russia in September, and so that is called, I think, Observer in Defense Exercise X Center 2019. So there have been previous exercises as well. So this is expected to take place, yes. Definitely those associated with the domain, they will are likely to be there. So there have been previous, as I said, so it is a kind of continuing exercise. And let there be not more speculation on this aspect, because all this is based on agreed SCO principles, and which is to fight the common challenges and threats. And we have seen no problems here.
Yeah. The fourth row.
Can you share the date of which Prime Minister Modi and the President Xi will meet? And also, we know this meeting is very important before President Xi's visit to India for the second round of informal meeting. So there's some reports saying that this sideline meeting will be a structural talk, which means the agenda is already set. Can you share more information about this, and what is the special setting for this talk?
So you see, we have just confirmed that the meeting is taking place. Closer to the date of the meeting, I think we will have perhaps more details. At this point of time, we are not coming out with the exact time of the meeting, because it's a multilateral format and discussions are ongoing. Once we have a fix on the time, I think then we will share that with you. No, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I think, yeah, 13th also the meeting can happen. I think since Prime Minister will be arriving on the 13th, so there is a possibility of a meeting either on the 13th or the 14th. So the agenda itself, I think, again, we have never shared in advance. As I mentioned, that once the meeting takes place, we will share the details and what transpired in the meeting with all of you. Madhurendra.
सर, पाकिस्तान को उसकी आतंकी नीतियों के चलते हमारी पॉलिसी का हिस्सा रहा है कि हर फोरम पर उसको एलिनेट हम करते रहे हैं। क्या एससीओ के फोरम का भी हम इस्तेमाल इसके लिए करेंगे जहां पर पाकिस्तान हमारे साथ ज्वाइंटली शामिल होगा?
मैं किसी खास देश के बारे में नहीं कहना चाहूँगा यहाँ पर, लेकिन जो एससीओ में हमें करना चाहिए वो करेंगे। और जहाँ तक टेररिज्म का मुद्दा है, दहशत का मुद्दा है, तो जो हमारे लिए ख़तरा बना है और सभी देशों के लिए वहाँ पर भी ख़तरा बना हुआ है, तो हम अपनी जो हमारे राय है, हमारे व्यूज़ हैं, हमारा जो एक्सपीरियंस, उसको हम ज़रूर आगे बढ़ाना चाहेंगे।
Yeah, as you said, there is no formal meeting planned between Prime Minister Modi and Imran Khan. But are you not ruling out any last-minute pull aside between the two leaders?
You see, whatever we had to share, in fact, at the last briefing, I have already mentioned that, there is no meeting, to the best of our knowledge, there is no meeting which is being organized between Prime Minister and Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan. I think there is nothing more which I can add or we can add at this stage. I do not see any other hand. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Manish. And thank you all for joining this special briefing on Prime Minister's visit to Bishkek for the SCO Summit.